and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Ridley, and this is my kitchen, how I found it. We are going to be continuing our trip into Turkey today, and we're going to be trying a dish called Menemen. The dish itself is actually named after a small town called Menemen in the Izmir province, and it is just a really hearty egg dish. And it's probably going to be one of our quickest to put together, and I'm really excited to try these flavors and how they get melded. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to have some bell pepper and onions that we're going to be cooking up with a little bit of tomatoes, and then to that we're going to be adding some eggs that I'm going to just whip together into some scrambled eggs. And for spices, we have some pepper, oregano, Aleppo pepper, and then a little bit of tomato paste to add some more of that deep tomato flavor, and a little bit of olive oil to cook everything up in. But once again, very simple recipe, and this is what we've got to work with. They were really easy to find ingredients and ones I'm very familiar and comfortable with. So this is going to be an interesting sort of transcontinental but very familiar approach to, I guess, an omelet, but we're going to find out. So for now, let's go ahead and put our spices to the side. And then for all three of the vegetable ingredients, it's just going to be chopping into basic chunks. I've seen a couple of different recipes that have these be really big chunks. I've seen some that use a little bit finer. I'm probably just gonna go for a medium chop, and we'll do so for all three of these. What's great about this recipe is because everything is going in together, we can actually take a lot of our prep and condense it down into smaller dishes all in one step, which is nice. All right, got a little bit here. There we go. All right, half of a chopped onion there. And other half. I do love recipes that are really easy to put together. It makes it a simple task as opposed to something you have to think really hard about or be very specific and meticulous about. Now, granted, anytime you're cutting anything, be careful and be a little bit meticulous, but all right. And with the bell pepper, you do want to core and seed it, because those are going to add some extra bitter flavors that are not particularly fun. And then again, we can cut into strips, cut that into pieces, chopped, and then we're just going to mix this with the onions because they're all going to be going in together. Now, a quick note on the onions, a super traditional menemen is going to be a breakfast dish usually, and there's a little bit of controversy over adding onions, but in general, it's acceptable to add onions when it's going to be eaten as a main dish. And seeing as this is going to be our main dish for the night, I figured it was appropriate to add a little bit of that extra, I don't know, meat into the dish. Not meat. By the way, if it's not obvious, I don't have good knife skills, but you don't really need them to cook a lot of really tasty dishes. So, don't ever let being unfamiliar with the tool or being not super experienced with it or comfortable with it stop you from trying new things. Just be careful. Now, the tomatoes are going to go in a little bit after the peppers and the onions, so I'm just going to put these in a separate container. But this way they will be ready for us to put in at the proper step in the recipe. right. And then one more tomato. We'll probably cut this entire bit out. I don't know. We'll find out. Actually, we'll find out together because I'm not in charge of that. There is somebody much better. I also imagine you could probably use, this is blasphemy to say, you could probably use canned tomatoes for this because there is diced tomatoes available. And you're essentially making these into diced tomatoes. But there's something to be said for the structure and the integrity of the fresh tomatoes when you're cooking them. They haven't been sitting in the juices for quite as long or deconstructed for quite as long. But that is all our prep, because for the eggs, we're just gonna be putting these in a bowl, whisking them together, and they're ready to go in the pan. So we're gonna move back over to the stove and get started on cooking, but this is gonna be a real quick and tasty meal. See you in a second. So to start this one off, we're just gonna preheat a pan on medium heat. I've already got this heated up a little bit, and then we're gonna add those 2 tablespoons of oil in here. I'm gonna be using olive oil for this one because all the recipes that I found specifically request it, which is interesting because oftentimes for frying things, you don't want olive oil because it has a lower smoke point. So we're gonna let this heat up a little bit, and then we're going to be adding the onions and the bell peppers here, and we're just going to let these soften up for a few minutes. Not necessarily brown and cook down. We don't want them too heavily cooked, but we do want them to soften up so that they're not a big crunchy afterbite in every bit of our menemen. So I'm gonna cook these for probably 4 or 5 minutes, maybe a little less because I feel like my stove runs a bit hot, but just until they've softened, but we're looking to try and avoid too much browning. The veggies have softened down pretty well. They're starting to get a little bit of color on them, so I think now's the time to move on to the tomatoes. So we're going to add the tomatoes in. A lot more moisture in there. The tomato paste, along with all of our spices. So this is gonna give them time to cook into the vegetables and really meld together and fuse all of it into, theoretically, one really nice melange of flavors. All right, so we've got our Aleppo pepper. We have some oregano. I'm gonna add a little bit of black pepper. The black pepper is kind of to taste. I tend to like black pepper, but I also agree that people need to be able to season at the end of the dish, and this has a lot of optional areas for spice. So when it's served, you can also serve it with additional Aleppo pepper and even red pepper flakes, depending on how spicy you want it. Also topping off, of course, with a little bit of salt, which you can just sprinkle in here a little bit during each stage to make sure that you're not over-salting, but also definitely not under-salting. What is the right level of salt? I have no idea, but theoretically, the flavors will meld better if you don't add all of your salt in at one point and try and compensate at the end. And it allows you to taste things a little bit along the way and make sure that it's progressing as you like. So, we're gonna put this together. We're going to just cook these until the tomatoes cook down a little bit. So we're gonna be looking to see a little bit more of like a puddle of liquid appearing in the bottom of the pan. And then we are going to come back to this at that point, which should be another probably 4 or 5 minutes. So about the same amount of time that we spent with just the peppers. So catch you in a bit. The tomatoes have broken down, and so now you see that they've got almost like a sauce going on here. And so this, I think, is one of my favorite sort of techniques to cooking, which is you're going to allow what you've already got going to continue cooking on one side, and then add another ingredient to the other side that takes less time to cook and allow you to use one pan for the same dish. So we're going to add our scrambled eggs over here. And we're just gonna stir these occasionally until the eggs have just set. I'm gonna turn down the heat to medium-low, just a tiny bit so we don't cook them too fast. Let it set a bit. And then once the eggs have completely set, it is just mix it all together and you've got Menemen. So we are in the home stretch here and it looks and smells and sounds amazing. This might just become one of my go-to breakfasts if it turns out tasty, because this was just very easy to put together. So it's interesting because it's kind of like an omelet, but at the same time, it's more of like making soft set scrambled eggs and then mixing it in, as opposed to like layering it in and folding it over and having it inside a pouch of egg. All right. I think everything is just about set. There's a little bit of liquid left, but I don't want to overcook anything. Again, I have no idea where I'm exactly supposed to be here, but that looks good to me. All right. I'm going to top off with a little bit more pepper, but I will leave the rest for seasoning at the table, and also just a bit more salt. And it says you can also top it off with just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. I was probably supposed to leave that as a drizzle on top, but that's okay. I believe that that is our Menemen. So I'm gonna get this plated, and then we'll give it a try. Okay. So I've already liberally dusted mine with some red pepper flakes, but I like a little bit of spice. This is currently got a little bit of Aleppo pepper and some black pepper in there.
All right.
But that's it. So nothing too crazy and not a whole lot of it.
Well, let's dig in.
Definitely. The egg texture is different from any egg texture I've ever had before.
Because it's like not fully scrambled eggs. It's like just close to doneness, but like close enough to be its own thing, kind of. Mm-hmm. Especially when you mix it with all the other stuff in here. Yeah. That's really good. I'll try some of it.
Yeah,
Give it a little bit extra.
I can see where the spice element would be coming from. And this is a great, just little quick breakfast thing. I can also see if we pulled the onions out. That's a lot of the substance of what's in here. Mm-hmm. Because if the onions weren't there, the only element that would hold any kind of remaining major substance would be the bell peppers, because the tomatoes have completely just become part of the dish.
Yeah, like they kind of just melded, and they're just part of the eggs now.
So I could definitely see this also having a major textural update from removing the onion.
I might even like if they were softer, the bell peppers and the onions.
Okay.
To be closer to mixing in like the tomatoes did, but not quite. So still a little bit of structure, but just softer, less crunch. Mm-hmm. But that's really all it is a texture thing. The taste is great.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting, and it's taken the ingredients, like I said, that I'm very familiar with, but presented them, especially the eggs, in a way that I've not had this sort of experience with eggs before.
I wonder if it would ruin it if you added other breakfast-like things to it, like ham or sausage, like a meat, a protein type of situation.
I could see this going really well with a sausage.
Yeah.
Or yeah, like some deli ham or something like that.
Right. Just a little
That would for sure not be
meat goodness.
traditional
Of
Menemen.
course not. Of
But
course
I
not.
could see it being super, super tasty. Also, I saw some arguments about whether or not cheese belongs on here. Cheese I could also see being a very delicious addition.
Agreed.
Also, very traditionally, this would be served with like a crusty bread. So you would I think, ladle it onto the bread and then
Yeah.
yeah,
Like
or
that.
use it to scoop it out. And I imagine that would also add another layer to this.
Definitely.
Because then it'd be more like
Ooh, maybe like a garlic bread. Ooh, that sounds pretty good.
Yes.
Actually, with this profile situation, I think specifically.
This would be spectacular with garlic bread.
Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome. I say another success on this one.
Definitely.
It's
Definitely.
probably not the most crazy dish that we've put together, but it wasn't designed to be. It was supposed to be just a really simple breakfast. Actually, one of my favorite little factoids that I learned about breakfasts is the one thing that unifies them. It's not like eggs are always breakfast or fruit is always breakfast. It's really different in different places.
Right, yeah.
The thing that unifies breakfasts is that it's fast. Pretty much every breakfast food everywhere is you wake
Something
up, I don't want to do anything, but I gotta eat.
Right. I have to live throughout the day, so let's go ahead and put something simple together. Boom.
So, I get it. But it wouldn't be too crazy to add sausage.
Right. Right.
All right. I think after this we have one more stop in Turkey. I may be wrong. But we will see you next time. And thanks for being here.
Next time.